Have you ever tried to draw an art piece or participate in art in some form? Did you like what you drew? Were you happy with the outcome? Were you unhappy with the outcome? Well, today I'm going to talk about one of my art pieces and just art in general. Understanding the process and the technique behind my art and any type of art is important. Help create your own art, but also to think critically about others' art in a positive manner. As someone who has participated in art their whole life and participated in many art shows and awards and won many art awards, I've also just completed an art AP portfolio. I feel that I'm very inclined to speak upon this subject. So today we'll be talking about three big elements that make up art and art pieces, which are the process, the technique, and lastly the meaning behind just art. Not all art in general, but my specific art piece. So first, for the process, there are three big processes to start any piece of art. The first and most common one is sketching, and as Cecilia Fredrickson says, sketching can be compared to the field notes that often are created during fieldwork observation. This is meaning, because sketching is it's like the blueprint of an artwork. You break an artwork down into its light basic shapes or figures, and it's very like observing something in the field where you just observe and lay out the groundwork before you start actually drawing your piece. That's what sketching is all about. One of the second main processes to start an artwork is called freehanding, which is just sketching but without the blueprint part. You just look at something and sketch without any blueprint or guidelines or anything, and just through your own imagination. The third and less common process is called storyboarding, which is only used for things like animated TV shows or movies, and that's when an artist breaks down a scene into multiple boxes and then writes the scene out or draws the scene out in those boxes, and that's called storyboarding, but that's only used for TV and movies. So now that we've talked about the process, we'll talk about the techniques of art and artworks. There are millions of techniques you can use for an artwork, but as Joseph W. Hammond states, techniques can include conceiving a piece, working out its details, and executing the idea. Art techniques are the things that bring the art to life and create your own image and it's what makes your own style. For my piece, I used pen and ink around the snake's head, right here, and along the cliff base to bring out the detail. And the main technique I used for the snake and the background in general was colored pencil and colored pencil shading. I used colored pencil shading to make the smooth finish of the clouds in the background and to make the scales and bloody scales along the snake's body as well as the rocky cliff face. Those are the techniques that I've used. Last but not least, one of the most important subjects and elements of art is the meaning. Meaning behind an artwork can be many things, but I'm not going to talk about the meaning of all art because that's up to interpretation. The meaning of my art piece, though, is the idea of anxiety, and that this snake is an anxiety or fears you might have, and it's sometimes overwhelming of how big they can be compared to how you might be feeling about it. But we always strive to face and challenge our fears and anxiety, no matter how difficult they may be. But other meanings that my artwork can interpret it as is also bravery, standing up to these giant beasts or monsters, or anxiety itself. That's the main message and meaning behind my art, is the idea of standing up to bravery and things of that nature. So, in conclusion, we have talked about the elements of art, the techniques of art, and lastly the meanings of this artwork, but how artwork can also have other meanings. So as you look back, if you ever draw something, and if you ever want to draw something, maybe look back and think upon my speech to think about ways that you can interpret and include a process, technique, and meaning into your artwork.